All right, we are live. It is week 4 of the 2024 NFL season, and the quest to do a video collaboration for every game on the Browns schedule rolls on because we are taking on the Las Vegas Raiders this week in Allegiant Stadium. The Browns' first trip to Vegas, actually, since the Raiders have moved there. And, well, we got Darion from the Nothing But Raiders podcast. You might remember him from the last time we played the Raiders back in 2020 because I had you on then. And you guys have got the better of us in that game. In fact, dating back to 2015, you have won 4 straight games against the Browns in 2015, 2018, 2020, and 2021. With 3 of those games coming in Cleveland. And the 2018 game was in Oakland. So, again, this will be our first time playing you in Las Vegas, which, again, is the home, or was the site, I should say, of Super Bowl LVIII. So, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you for having me, man. I really do appreciate you having me on here. We ain't played each other in a long, long time. So, we finally got to get this collaboration going, and it's going to be an interesting game, tomorrow. So, it's going to be really fun.
Yeah. Don't worry, even though I'm a Browns channel, I got that little Raiders helmet. I got Raiders pennant, and there you go, Raiders hat. So
hey, I'm down for that, man. Listen, I appreciate you. I do.
So my cousin actually used to be a Raiderette when they were still in Oakland. So that's the reason I got the Raiders hat was because at the time she was doing that. So I thought it would be nice to buy the Raiders hat, show her some support, and I still like wearing it. Obviously, I will not be wearing it tomorrow, but this is the start of a 3-game road trip for us. This wraps up a quick 2-game homestand for you, and both of our teams are coming off of pretty ugly losses last week. Us losing to Daniel Jones and the New York Giants. You guys losing to the Carolina Panthers. So we both have... You want to talk about it?
No. I don't want to talk about it. I think I said enough that I had to say about that game. So I'm going to just keep it as it is. I'm moving forward. And that's what's going to happen, man. Unfortunately.
So, I mean, we didn't fare much better against the Giants. So, I mean, we allowed Malik Neighbors to score 2 touchdowns. Daniel Jones looked like Joe Montana against us. So, what the hell?
I mean, if we want to go that route, I mean, we could talk about how we revived Andy Dalton's career with 300 and something yards and 3 touchdowns and no interceptions. Like, yeah.
Does that give me hope going into this game that Deshaun Watson can actually go out there and look like the old Deshaun Watson? Absolutely not. Our offensive line has been like a turnstile at an amusement park where it's just, oh, you can go sack the quarterback. You can go sack the quarterback. I know you guys are going to be without Max Crosby on Sunday, but you still have Christian Wilkins on your defensive line. That was a huge pickup for you guys over the offseason. I really liked that move for you to improve your defense. And I'm just like, okay, if we double Christian Wilkins, somebody else from your defensive line is going to have a feast all game long.
Well, we have a few people that's going to have I was going to fill in for Max Crosby. Remember, we don't have Malcolm Kuntz either.
Right.
Malcolm Kuntz, that's one thing. We don't have him for the rest of the year. And we have Janaris Robinson. We have Snowden. That's going to be another one that's going to fill in. It's just that we're really kind of like not as much depth at the defensive end position, but hopefully Patrick Graham and Antonio Pierce get these guys going and get these guys rocking and making sure that at the end of the day, we could get to Deshaun Watson because we know he can be very, very mobile. Last time he did play us, I mean, he was with the Houston Texans, if I'm not mistaken. He was with us. I think it was with the Houston Texans. We played him in the playoffs and we lost to him. So like that's the last time we actually played him in a Houston Texans uniform. So Marcus Epps, our safety, is done for the year. He tore his ACL last week against the Carolina Panthers. We might get Devon Diablo back at linebacker, so he was out last week too. But our defensive line is our defensive end is kind of decimated. But hopefully, we can get this. Hopefully we can get the defensive line going. You said your offensive line was not great, so hopefully they can give us a motor and give us a spark going into this game. But just another thing to throw out there: Devontae Adams is not going to be available for this game either due to a hamstring injury. So like we're kind of decimated right now with injuries. But hopefully this can be a competitive game because both teams need a win right now. We both need a
Yeah.
win.
Yeah. I feel like this could be a case where given how both offenses have played, it could be a case of the first team to 20 points wins. But I'll tell you this. The last time we played Gardner Minshew last season when he was with Indianapolis, he did really well against us. I'd have to look up the stats, but I remember he was scoring. He ran for a couple touchdowns, I believe. He
Mm-hmm.
threw the ball very well. And I just look at our defense. I mean, so far we've played the Dallas, Jacksonville, New York. Nobody that really scares you offensively.
Yeah.
And yet, we've given up 33, 21. We really should have lost against Jacksonville in week 2 had it not been for the safety. So I'm just like, I don't know if I can trust our defense even. Like, yeah, you're going to be without Javonte, but you still have Brock Bowers. You still have Michael Mayer, who are both very solid.
Michael Mayer is out too.
Okay, never mind. But you still have Jacoby Myers, who has been a very solid wide receiver for you. I know that. You got the rookie Brock Bowers. So
Right.
you still have pieces. And, yeah, you didn't really get your running game going last week. But who's to say, your running game doesn't get going this week, right?
Right. Now, I can say the only thing that really going to happen with our running game is this. Our running game has to happen. It has to happen through multiple things, honestly. When it comes to the running game, we have to have a good offensive line that can get up to the second level. That's been one of our biggest things with the offensive line that we cannot get to the second level. It's a lot of missed blocks, but at the same time, is a vision issue too with the line with the running backs. We got to have Alexander Madison. Make sure you hit the hole correctly. Same thing for Zamir White. But I want to get into about Luke Getsy because I feel like y'all have a more offensive coordinator than what we have. Because Luke Getsy is a terrible offensive coordinator for the Las Vegas Raiders. When it comes to certain scenarios and certain downs, he just don't know what plays to call when it comes to that. Me personally, that's just my personal opinion. Other people have different reasonings of that, but people, when you're a coach, right? You're a coach, and when it comes to your coach, and you see when Nick Chubb was thriving in this offense when he was healthy, because y'all played to his strengths, what he could do and what he cannot do.
Exactly.
Same thing for Zamir White. Knowing Zamir White came out of Georgia just like Nick Chubb did. Zamir White is not an east and west runner. Most of Georgia running backs are downhill. So as a coach, you have to you have to make sure that you're playing to your players' strengths and not your players' weaknesses. And that has been the issue with our running game. If our running game starts to go off against this Browns defense, because I do like, your Browns defense a little bit more than mine as of right now, but it's going to be very difficult to see what this offensive line do. Hopefully Luke Getsy can get it right this time around so we can finally get a win at home.
Yeah. By the way, I'm looking at the stats for Gardner Minshew from our game against the Colts last year when he was the starting quarterback. He was 15 of 23, 305 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been a bit of a journeyman, but he's capable of putting up that type of performance. So given the way our defense has played against Daniel Jones last week, okay, not as much Dak Prescott and Trevor Lawrence the first 2 weeks, but like coming off of what I saw against Daniel Jones, I'm like, okay, how do I know I'm not going to see the same exact story of what I saw last year in Indianapolis, where I'll admit it, the Colts should have won that game. We got a couple lucky breaks from the refs. I'm not even going to deny that. And Myles Garrett went off in that game. And I don't even know what Myles Garrett is going to be like in this game because he's been dealing with injuries this whole week.
So I did see him on the injury report, and I'm not going to lie, the Browns injury report that I saw yesterday is a list load of your injury report for week 4.
Oh yeah,
I've seen. I'm like, what is like? They're just as decimated as us right now, but we're not as decimated. But looking at it here, you got Jake Conklin, your offensive tackle, Javon Cohen, your guard, Jerome Ford, even your backup running back with a knee. He's still like questionable. They don't even have it up like the updated statuses, but Mike Ford, Myles Garrett, Jordan Hicks, James Hudson, DeJuan Jones, Jerry Jeudy, David Njoku, another tight end that's could have been, good for y'all, coming to this week. JOK, like y'all have so many Denzel Ward, like y'all have so many valuable players on your defense. So Gardner Minshew can actually go off if none of these players does not play. Gardner Minshew might have it, but like at the end of the day, it starts with our offensive line. It starts with a lot of other things that comes into play. Plus, you having a running game against your Browns defense. But I mean, we kind of depleted too on the offensive line. But as of right now, we only have Devon Diablo is out on defense. Michael Mayer is out on defense, and Devontae Adams is out on defense. Max Crosby, they have him as doubtful, but I really doubt that he'll play tomorrow.
Yeah, I thought I saw on the NFL Twitter page that he's officially out for tomorrow. I could be wrong about that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm looking at the depth chart right now. Like Batonio, it says he had full practice on Friday. Conklin is officially out. A bunch of these guys, it says either full practice or limited. As of right now, it only says Jack Conklin's out. Jordan Hicks is questionable. David Njoku's out. Pierre Strong out. And Jedrick Wills out. Everybody else it doesn't have anything. It either says full or limited practice for their status as of Friday. I don't have it for today.
Okay. Now what I'm gonna say about this when it comes to this Browns game, because I'm pretty nervous about this game. I'm gonna be here and sit here, be completely honest with you. I don't know about this game right here because I'm doing a play-by-play tomorrow. So I'm doing a play-by-play tomorrow of this game. And
I'll be tuning in for some of that. Don't worry.
And to see that Amari Cooper is going to be playing against his former team, nobody's really not talking about that. That's the one thing nobody's really talking about.
I feel like that's partially because he got traded from the Raiders to Dallas and then from Dallas to here.
But I don't think he played us. I think the last time he played us was when we beat them on Thanksgiving a couple of years back when we had Derek Carr.
Okay.
And that was a while ago when we beat them on Thanksgiving. So I would love to see this matchup. Even though we have all our corners besides Marcus Epps and everything, but what would be some things, in my opinion, what would be some things for your Browns to beat us? Like what would be your strong suit right now, and you see a weakness for our Raiders if your Browns want to get a win there?
I mean, I would say the deep passing game, but I'm not sure Deshaun Watson is capable of that because honestly, I'm done with Deshaun Watson. DONE, done. Even though our offensive line has been horrible, I wish Jameis Winston was starting this game on Sunday against the Raiders. I really do. But I know that's not going to happen because $230 million fully guaranteed. That's why. But given that I don't trust Deshaun Watson to throw the deep ball. I
Mhm.
would say mostly just run the heck out of the ball with Jerome Ford and Deontay Foreman. I think he's our other running back.
Mhm.
And try and set up like the mid-level play action game. That's where I think we can attack the Raiders in terms of your defense.
I mean, I can agree to that, knowing that Max Crosby's out, Malcolm Kuntz is out, but we still have our inside with John Jenkins, and a few Christian Wilkins. So it's gonna be really interesting to watch with your running game, because Trevor Hubbard was able to run 117 yards on us last week. So the running game has really been an issue on the defensive side of the ball for the last couple of weeks for the Las Vegas Raiders. I think our strong suit, like I said, if when it comes to our defense against your offense, I think we have some good corners. Personally, I just want to see what they do and what adjustments has been made over the past week, because we had Deontay Johnson revive his career with us last week with the Carolina Panthers. So I mean, y'all got Donovan Peoples Jones over there as well. I think that I don't
No,
think
we traded him to Detroit.
to Detroit, right? So who's your number two?
So we've got Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, Jerry
Jerry Judy.
Yeah.
Okay, I see him on the injury report as well. So, um, we played Jerry Judy before. We played Jerry Judy a lot when he was with the Denver Broncos. So we've seen that many a times with Jerry Judy. But has Jerry Judy been good? What's been his issue about Jerry Judy since y'all traded for him?
Well, this is his first season with us, so I can look up his stats, but I can't through these first 3 games, I can't really remember him like doing much of anything. And maybe that's more so because of who our quarterback is in his current situation.
Mm.
Like in the game against Dallas, he only had 3 receptions for 25 yards, and his long was 15. In the game against Jacksonville, um, let's see, he had 5 receptions for 73 yards. And then last week against New York, let's see, he had 4 receptions for 27 yards. So he hasn't done a whole lot so far. It's been pretty mid, I would say.
Oh, okay. So, I think it's going to be a challenge for our corners against your receivers, because Jerry Judy, he does have the potential to be a good wide receiver in the NFL. He just was on a bad Denver Broncos team and he wanted out. So I just feel like with Amari Cooper and Jerry Judy, if they could get in cahoots and try to be a good tandem for this Browns team, then I think that's where the challenge is going to be. We all know the running game is not great for the Raiders defense, but at the end of the day, I hope that we buckle down and we get things done, and vice versa for me when it comes to the Raider offense versus your defense. If we can establish a running game, it will be a possibility that if we could get time possession and keep Deshaun Watson and that offense off the field, I think it has to be a key factor into the Raiders winning that game. But we have to actually do it instead of saying it when it comes to the Raiders. There's been a lot of things going on this past week with the Raiders. I had players meetings and business decisions is being happening and stuff like that. I don't know if you heard that in the news, but there's been a lot of that going on with the Las Vegas Raiders since Antonio Pierce lost the game at home against the Carolina Panthers. But hopefully we bounce back, because at the end of the day, this Browns team is not going to come in and just lay down. They're just not. And I'm, as a Raiders fan, I'm not looking over the Cleveland Browns, because I'm not gonna lie to you. I looked over the Carolina Panthers. I really did. I looked them over because they was probably the worst team in football going into that game, and we underestimated them. So I'm not looking over the Cleveland Browns, because it's any given Sunday, anything can happen, and I just really hope my Raiders come out and get the win.
Yeah, and this is according to the timeline I've heard, this is our last game without Nick Chubb. He should be coming back next week when we
Mm-hmm.
play the Washington Commanders in Washington. Although I do not want him coming back and making his debut on that field. Save him for week 6 in Philadelphia, because we all know the issues with the field in Washington and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But do I think Nick Chubb will change a lot with our offense? Yeah, But at the same time, I don't know if the return of Nick Chubb will fix all the issues I've seen with Deshaun Watson. Because since he's come to Cleveland, everybody's been hoping he can find that Houston version of himself. And, specifically I would say the 2019 version when he won that playoff game with the Texans against the Buffalo Bills and got out to that big lead early against the Kansas City Chiefs. Of course, we all know what happened afterwards with the Chiefs and all that. But since he's come to Cleveland, hasn't been able to stay on the field for a number of reasons, injuries and off the field shenanigans. And when he's been on the field, he's only had like maybe 2 or 3 games where I'm like, okay, that's the version of Deshaun Watson that we traded for. That's the version where it's like, okay, maybe he can get back to it. But then he'll have like 2 or 3 games in a row where you're like, dude, what are you doing? Like, I don't get it. Like, I remember the 4th down play last week, late in the game against the Giants. He had a tight end, Atkins, I think it was, wide open. And he says, oh, he was just meant to be a decoy. What? Like,
well, if he was meant to be a decoy in that situation, then do you think that's a Deshaun Watson issue or a coaching issue?
If he's wide open and I think it was like 4th and 2 or 4th and 1, something like that. I'd have to go back and look for the exact stuff on that. But I know it was late in the game. We had like 5 or 6 opportunities to tie or take the lead against the Giants. And that was one of the key reasons why we lost, was because we had a couple 4th down plays. And instead of trying to, I don't know, go for a quick short pass to get the 1st down, he decides to try and run it and came up short.
Mm.
And I'm just like, I don't get it. Like, with you guys, you got Luke Getsy calling the plays. Antonio Pierce is not the one calling the offensive plays.
Right. Agreed.
Whereas with us, we have Ken Dorsey as our offensive coordinator, but it's Kevin Stefanski who is calling the plays. So, and I'm just like, I don't know. So I'm not sure where the disconnect is. If it's a coaching issue like what you're suggesting, or if it's more so that Deshaun Watson is not suited for Kevin Stefanski's style of offense. I don't know if it's because, Deshaun Watson's best days are just behind him. I really and truly do not know.
So just looking at it here and looking at, the spread, not even the spread, just looking at last week's loss, to the, y'all lost to the Giants 21-15 and the Raiders lost to the Panthers 36-22, which it could have been worse than that because we did score a touchdown late in the game, which the game was already over. But looking at the Browns offense overall, ranked 31st in rush, 24th in pass, 30th, let me see, overall 31 in total offense, 24 in rush, 30 in pass, 25 in scoring. So it's overall 31 for the Browns offense. The Browns defense, y'all are top 15 defense, even with all the injuries that you have. It's crazy to see that because y'all overall 12, because y'all tied 13th in rush, 15th in passing, and 20th in scoring, and it gives you overall 12. I'm kind of surprised about that. But the Raiders offense against your Browns defense, we have the 21st overall offense. We are dead last in rushing, but we are 4th against the pass, and we're 17th in scoring. Our defense is ranked 30th this year. That's why I said your offense, both our offenses are not doing well. Both of our rushing offenses not doing great. Y'all's at 24, we are at 29. Against when it comes to our passing game, we're 23rd in offense on pass, where y'all 30th in offense on pass. Scoring, y'all at 25 ranked, we at 27 ranked. So it's going to be a very interesting game to see who can really put points on the board for both teams, because honestly, the best stat that I see here is that the Browns defense is ranked 12th in the league in total defense, overall defense. So I'm really looking forward to how both of these offenses can get rolling, and probably be the week that we both try to get things rolling on offense, both of us, when it comes to rankings.
Yeah. Like, I know the line is flipped because originally I saw you guys opened as a 2-point favorite, but
Yeah.
now we're favored. I think that's mostly because of the news about Devontae Adams
Yep.
and Max Crosby both being
Mhm.
out. But I hate to say this, but it almost feels like this game's gonna be like two ugly girls fighting each other. And like I said at the beginning, it could be a case of first 1 to 20 wins. Because
I don't even think it's going to get to 20.
oh god,
The only reason why I say that because both offenses struggle.
yeah,
Both offenses struggle. I say the most that we probably get out of this game. Who's the first one to 17?
oh wow, that would remind me of the game we had against the Minnesota Vikings a couple years ago, where we won 14-7 in Minnesota.
And you see that the last time we played Minnesota, we lost 3-0. Last year when we had Aiden O'Connell on the field, we lost 3-0 to the Minnesota Vikings. Yeah,
I do remember that. Honestly, I'm surprised that Deshaun and Gardner Minshew are both getting the respective starts for the Browns and Raiders in this game. Because I was thinking, given how it went last week against the Giants and the Panthers, I thought that Stefanski and Pierce would say, okay, I'm done with Deshaun Watson. I'm done with Gardner Minshew. And I thought there was a chance it could be Jameis Winston against Aiden O'Connell.
I don't think that Antonio Pierce wants to give up on Gardner Minshew just yet, because he knows what Gardner Minshew is capable of. He saw him in Jacksonville. He saw him with the Philadelphia Eagles. He saw him with the Indianapolis Colts. And you see the potential with Gardner Minshew, especially when you see it when we played the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore, which I was physically at that game and saw that Gardner Minshew balled out in that second half. Now, if Getsy could get Gardner Minshew rolling in the way that we did in that second half against Baltimore, then we will have a chance to beat your Browns. I'm just being honest with you. So, I mean, yes, Gardner Minshew had to have his best start to the year, but if you look at his numbers, he's top 5 in almost every statistical category as a quarterback. So that's why I feel like, because of the stats that he has right now through 3 weeks, I see why Antonio Pierce don't want to go to him yet. Now, if it was on the flip side for y'all and knowing that Deshaun Watson is not playing well, when do you pull him? And it doesn't matter if he's getting paid $230 million. Do you want to win games, or you want to lose and just still make money? Which one is it? So that's why people really surprised that we overpaid for Gardner Minshew. But hey, I don't think it was really an overpay. I think it was something that we was looking forward to, getting Gardner Minshew and probably drafting a quarterback in the NFL. I mean, in the NFL draft, but no real true quarterbacks really fell in our laps that really will fit our scheme or fit our offense. So at that time, Jaden Daniels was already off the board. So that's Antonio Pierce's guy when they went to Arizona State. So I think Gardner Minshew right now is going to keep it there. I don't think they want to switch just as yet for Aiden O'Connell. I think he still wants to build and have him be a backup and learn from Gardner until you put him out there. But on the other hand, Deshaun Watson Jameis Winston is a veteran. So Jameis Winston know how to win games in this league. But we all know that Jameis Winston is good for the 30 for 30, 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions.
Right.
So I see why they're not going with Jameis Winston yet, but I wouldn't have been surprised if they did, because that's exactly what the Panthers did to us. We prepared for Bryce Young, and right before you know it, Andy Dalton gets the start. So I wouldn't have been surprised if the Browns did it.
Honestly, you bring up the NFL draft. I don't think you were going to get Jaden Daniels anyway, because I think there was no way Washington was trading out of that second pick, and they were going to take him no matter what.
Right.
But I think what really messed you up was when Atlanta surprised everybody with the 8th overall pick, we're selecting Michael Penix. And I'm just like, what? Like, You
This is when you know the NFL hates the Raiders. This is when you know the NFL hates the Raiders. They will do anything and everything to try. We will try to get a first round quarterback, and we just can't get one. The NFL hates us, and it goes all the way back to the immaculate reception against the Raiders and the Steelers. It goes that far back, and then it goes to the tuck rule with Tom Brady. Then it goes to the index card against the Dallas Cowboys, and then it goes to the whistle being blown during the Bengals game and the playoff game. Do I need to keep more of how the Raiders been screwed all these years? And now the Raiders got screwed in the draft. I think even though that Jaden Daniels wasn't on the board, I knew Michael in my draft board. I had Michael Penix as our second choice at that spot. And the fact that Atlanta just came out of nowhere and said they were going to pick Michael Penix Jr. Come on, y'all cannot tell me this ain't no Raiders conspiracy. Something ain't right here with the NFL. Y'all don't want us to win. Then the thing about it is that when y'all don't pick us in mainstream media, we win. But then when you pick us, we lose. Just don't talk about us at all. Just don't talk about the Raiders at all at this point. If you're mainstream media and you're out here listening to us, please don't talk about the Raiders. Don't.
I feel the same way as a Browns fan because we've seen it multiple times when you put expectations on us, like after we made all the crazy moves in 2019,
right?
We had all this hype. What did we do? Boo! Face plant. There's countless other examples. Against the Raiders, for example, Red Right 88, Browns fans everywhere still talk about that. The drive, the fumble, so you're not the only snake-bitten franchise. I mean, no offense to the city of Las Vegas, but you guys should still be in Oakland, in my opinion. But that's a whole
that's a whole nother story in itself. We just see the A's play their last game over there. So
yeah,
City of Oakland lost every professional team from the Warriors to the A's to the Raiders.
Yeah. All within just like 3 or 4 years of each other because the Warriors and Raiders made the jump to San Francisco and Vegas in 2020, and now the A's are going to a minor league ballpark and then Las Vegas.
Right.
So like I said, this is our first time playing in Vegas because the last time we played you on the road, it was in Oakland back in 2018 in that crazy overtime game.
That was a great game, though.
Yeah. So, and think about how different our teams are overall since that game. Like,
right.
We had Baker Mayfield as our starting quarterback in that game. You had Derek Carr. I believe you still had Josh Jacobs at that point.
Josh Jacobs or Marshawn Lynch. He was one of them. I'm not too sure.
You didn't have Devontae Adams. You were playing on a baseball field. And now you're playing in basically the Death Star in Vegas, the site of last year's Super Bowl, which I'm sure you're not happy that the Chiefs won it in your home stadium. But we got a question here. Which 3 Raiders rookies have impressed you most, if any?
3 Raiders rookies that have impressed me. This is a good question. Rookies. I mean, the only one that really stood out to me is Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers leads the league in all reception yards and touchdowns for tight ends right now. So Brock Bowers is a threat to any offense in the league. It doesn't matter if it's against the Browns, Chiefs, whoever. Brock Bowers is a dog. If you watched him at Georgia, you'll see why we picked him where we picked him at. So Brock Bowers is another one. I did like DJ Glaze. DJ Glaze is a good offensive lineman that we did get out of Maryland. We still have a lot of work to do, but I did see some of him that's been impressed. Defensively, I have not seen any rookie that's impressed me on the defensive side of the ball just yet. For me, it's just DJ Glaze on the offensive side, and so is Brock Bowers. But that's really just it as of right now until we start winning games and seeing improvements.
Yeah. Once you knew you weren't getting a quarterback in the draft, did you think Brock Bowers was going to be the pick?
No.
Who did you think the Raiders were taking at that point once you knew like there wasn't a
Um,
quarterback on the board?
I mean, I thought we was probably going to go offensive line, probably linebacker right there too, because we had to fill a need, and I felt like right now Brock Bowers wasn't a need, but he was the best player available at that spot. So I understand why the Raiders went with Brock Bowers because he's the best player available, and he's just another talent for Gardner Minshew. Well, at the time, it would have been Aiden O'Connell because Aiden O'Connell was the starter before we went out and got Gardner Minshew. So for me, I mean, it could have been any top 10, top 5 offensive lineman that was on the board. I don't remember any names at this moment. I didn't see us going anywhere else offensively on that side of the ball, and just anywhere on the defensive line, linebackers, corners, safeties. We could have went with any of those. Um, and if I did want to go defense, Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo that actually the Philadelphia Eagles picked up in the first round. I thought that would be another one that we would get, knowing that we've been so young, we've been so old at the cornerback position with Brandon Facyson and Marcus Peters and them boys. So I thought we was probably gonna go young there and get Quinyon Mitchell there. But I mean, Brock Bowers was the best player available, so that's where the Raiders went with. So I'm rocking out with him.
Yeah. I think once Michael Mayer gets healthy, I wouldn't be surprised if you guys do 12 personnel with both of them on the field.
Yeah, we've been doing that for a couple games now. It's just that we need protection. We need
Yeah.
protection, and Gardner Minshew. The problem is with him is just that he just can't stare down one receiver too long. You're staring down Devontae Adams, and you're not going through your progressions. Where you have a Jacoby Myers on the opposite side that's just as good. So we got to start getting him involved because Jacoby Myers is going to be the target going into this game against the Browns, knowing that we have a speedster in Trey Tucker that can stretch the field. But it all starts up front. It got to be protection. It got to be run blocking. So if you don't have an offensive line, you don't win football games. If you don't have a defensive line, you don't win football games.
Sure. And then we got another question here. He says, what were the Raiders' biggest strengths going into the 2024 season? What were the Raiders' biggest weaknesses, and has that changed now?
That is a great question. Thank you for this question. I absolutely appreciate it, but this is a great question. The biggest strength going into this year was our defensive line, knowing that we would have had Malcolm Coons, we had Christian Wilkins, we had Max Crosby, Janaris Robinson. We would have very, very good depth at the defensive line position. That was one of our biggest strengths for the Las Vegas Raiders, just our defense in total. Because if you know the last 9 weeks of the regular season last year, we was like number one in like scoring defense and number one like takeaways within the last 9 weeks of the NFL season when Antonio Pierce took over.
Oh, trust me, I remember you guys shutting down the Kansas City Chiefs defensively on Christmas and Arrowhead. Do you guys still have Tyree Wilson, the guy out of, I think it was
Texas Tech? Yes, we still have Tyree Wilson. So most likely it's going to be Tyree Wilson and probably Janaris Robinson that's going to be our defensive ends for this week. So this is really up to Tyree Wilson to show why he was a number 7 overall pick a couple years ago. He has to prove that. So I mean, mind you, if Kuntz and Max Crosby was not injured, those two would be our rotational players that would come in on certain situations. But right now, they might be there on first, second, probably third down situations. So I say our defense overall was our biggest strength coming in, but they got to get better. But for the offense was the weakest coming for me, not even just at the skill position, but the offensive line. The offensive line was the biggest question to me, knowing that Colton Miller was injured most of training camp, and then we went out and got Jackson Power Johnson out of Oregon in the draft. So for me, is our weakness is our offense. Can we put points on the board? Can we get separation from the wide receivers? Can we hit the running lanes from the running backs? Can our offensive line make holes for our running backs and get to the second level? Can they protect Gardner Minshew? So right now, our biggest weaknesses right now is our offense and a little bit of special teams, because surprisingly, Daniel Carlson missed 2 field goals so far this year. Surprisingly. But hey, at the end of the day, that's just what our biggest and weaknesses now. And what has changed? Nothing has really changed right now. I mean, our strength has become our weakness, and our weakness is still our weakness. So hopefully we can get some things improved and get the ball rolling because before you know it, the season's going to be over. So we
Yeah.
can't wait around, you know?
Yeah. In terms of your offense, I actually thought once all the quarterbacks went off the board, I actually thought you might go wide receiver with your pick because
Hmm.
I've when I look around the league, it feels like you need to have at least a trio of wide receivers to do well in this league and have so you can spread the ball around because you look at like Green Bay, for example, they've got Dontavian Wicks, Romeo Dobbs, Luke
Mhm.
Musgrave, Christian Watson. So that's a number of different weapons. And I obviously we know what Devontae Adams is. We
Right.
know we know what or I think I have an idea of Jacoby Myers. I'll
Mhm.
see more of him, on Sunday. And you have Tucker, but I still thought like you might draft a wide receiver just to add another weapon. Like, for example, going into the draft, I knew the Indianapolis Colts had um, Michael Pittman Jr.
Mhm.
for, and they have a couple other guys. I can't Jonathan Taylor, but I was pushing for them to trade up to the number 9 pick and or jump ahead of the Bears actually drop jump into that number like 8 overall pick where Atlanta
Yeah.
was and go get Roma Dunze just to give Anthony Richardson another weapon.
Right.
So so
So
that's why
I like Romeo Aduze. I think he's really really dope. I think he's a really talented receiver. I think him and Caleb Williams is going to gel really well in Chicago. They're still young, they're rookies. They'll be absolutely fine. But outside of Romeo Aduze, who else could have got? I don't know. But I know we was trying to go for we. The funny thing is we was trying to move up to number 8 to try to get Michael Penix Jr. The Falcons was not budget. They knew who they wanted. So that's what kind of like screwed us at the end of the day because that's really what we really needed. Once we got rid of Derek Carr and we got Aiden O'Connell, but Aiden O'Connell was not really ready to be a starting quarterback. In my personal opinion, Michael Penix would have been a starter for us right now, and probably would have been a little bit. Our record might be a little bit more different because
yeah.
even though that Gardner Minshew, I love Gardner Minshew. I love what he does in the NFL. But a younger guy that can that have great accuracy and can run with his legs. I like the athleticism for Michael Penix a little bit better than Gardner Minshew. But hey, it is what it is. We got to play the Cleveland Browns this weekend. It's going to be very interesting to watch how both of these teams play.
Yeah, like I said, this is the start of a 3-game road trip for us because we're in Vegas this week, then
Mhm.
Washington, then Philadelphia, and then we come home and play a 3-game homestand against Cincinnati, Baltimore, and
Mhm.
the Chargers. So not an easy first half of the season by any means. When I looked at the schedule, I thought these 3 games against the Jaguars, Giants, and you guys would be our
Mhm.
most winnable games. The only reason I didn't put Washington in that category is because I wasn't sure who was going to be able to stay healthy and all that, given the
Mhm.
playing conditions there. Um, and I looked at you guys. I didn't think it was going to be an easy win by any stretch,
Right.
because again, you've won 4 straight against us. You're trying to make it 5,
Right.
dating back to 2015. But it seemed like we had the better team, at least on paper, looking at the 2 rosters. And
Mhm.
I thought Deshaun Watson could get back to some like 70% of what he was. And I'm like, okay, that's a little bit better than Gardner Minshew. So I just looked and I'm like, okay, I'd say we're a little better. I wouldn't say we're substantially better than the
Yeah.
Raiders by any extent. But like, honestly, before the season started, I gave the Browns like a 51% chance of winning this game,
Mhm.
which I think is fair. At As of right now, I would favor the Raiders heading into this matchup tomorrow, given even though you guys had the more embarrassing loss, but
Yeah. Well, as of right now, according to the matchup predictor, according to ESPN, they have the Browns winning this game 58%. And that's according to ESPN analytics when it comes to that. So they do have the Browns winning this game 52.8%.
Yeah. So we got another question here. Which three players or position matchups that we may be watching closely? Well, for one, I'm thinking Denzel Ward is probably going to match up with Jacoby Myers because
Yeah.
so that's definitely a battle I'm watching. Um, given that Jedrick Wills and Jack Conklin are going to be out, that means DeJuan Jones and James Hudson are going to be playing. So how do they do against Christian Wilkins and the rest of your defensive line, especially Tyree Wilson?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Well, I mean, when it comes to Tyree Wilson, I mean, it's still unfortunate. We still got to see what he could do on as a full-time defensive end. So it's just going to be unproven versus unproven. So let's see who actually gets the best out of that. For me, like I said, the key matches that I seen, one of them was Denzel Ward versus Jacoby Myers because there's no Devontae Adams. So of course they're gonna have Denzel Ward on the number one receiver for the Las Vegas Raiders. But I really want to see what your slot corners could do against Trey Tucker. How can they keep up with a speedster at Trey Tucker? Will he able to get past these safeties and down the field and get the deep ball? But I think the key matchup for both of us, if you would love to agree with this, but I would love to say both running games against both our defenses. Our running games have not been great. Knowing that we don't have Josh Jacobs anymore and Nick Chubb is out for fourth game. This will be the last game that he'll be out for. So I think the biggest key matchups that we really need to focus on is the running game with the Raiders versus the Browns defense and the Browns running game versus the Raiders defense.
yeah,
Now let's see if we can actually start getting some things gelling on both sides of the ball when it comes to our running backs. Because right now we're looking at where we have running backs on our roster right now. They're not really first string running backs. They are second string running backs right now. So I think that's one of the biggest key matches. I really don't have three because both of us are struggling in almost every statistical category that I said earlier when it comes to overall offense, overall defense. So we both struggling on, offense. We both struggling on defense. But I'll say defense, y'all are a little bit more ranked higher than us. But I think our offenses and our running backs is going to be the key matchups of who actually is going to win this game.
yeah. Like our defense played exceptionally well last year at home, but you look at what we've done this season, not as good. And maybe that's because Jim Schwartz was a one-year wonder. We'll have to
Mm-hmm.
see. But I look at our secondary. We've got Denzel Ward. We got Martin Emerson, Juan
Mm-hmm.
Thornhill, Grant Delpit, and Greg Newsome. My biggest problem with them is they can't stay healthy. Like we talked about, Denzel Ward is on the injury list this week. Martin Emerson got burned last week against Malik Neighbors for the Giants. And
Right.
like Grant Delpit hasn't been able to stay on the field. Greg Newsome hasn't been able to stay on the field. So I'm like, okay, if we take away Jacoby Myers, okay, that just means more balls are going to Brock Bowers or more balls are going to Tucker. So I'm just like, I don't know what to expect out of our secondary. I really don't. I don't. I feel like our defense is so predicated on Myles Garrett, Zadarius Smith, and Tomlinson, and our whole defensive line getting pressure that if you can establish the run early, slow down that pass rush, our defense almost becomes like, I don't want to say null and void,
Yeah.
but you get what I'm trying to say.
Right. I get what you're trying to say.
So, yeah.
So we really appreciate those questions, bro. We really appreciate those questions. But the one, like I said, running backs is gonna be the one I'm watching closely. Offense, especially both offensive lines versus defensive lines, knowing that we don't have some of our best players might not be playing on the defensive line this week, probably with Myles Garrett possibly being out and Max Crosby possibly being out. So it's a lot of key matchups that you see from younger players that's going to fill these voids right now for week 4. So it's a lot to look forward to with a lot of key matchups.
Yeah. And both of these teams are trying to get to 2-2 and at least stay somewhat in the playoff picture, with the Steelers and the Chiefs both being 3-0. I still have no idea how the Steelers are 3-0, but Steelers are gonna.
They have a good defense. That's what it is.
I think there's some Steeler black magic going on there, but right. Like Grandizer said in this last comment, the Raiders lead the overall series against the Browns 17-10. Raiders have won the past 4 games against the Browns, with 4 of those, I believe, coming in Cleveland, including the 2020 game where you and I first met.
Yep.
So I'm looking for a little bit of payback from that game, but do I have a lot of faith? No.
I can completely understand why you don't have a lot of faith. I mean, the way Deshaun Watson's been playing, the way the team's been playing overall, and then now, with our team and the way we're playing with our quarterbacks, like, I'm really nervous about this game. I'll be completely honest with you. I'm just as nervous as you. Like, at this point, can we just get a tie? Can we just get a tie and we'll just be fine with that? I'll be fine with a tie instead of a loss. I think we can both agree to that. I mean, because both quarterbacks are not playing well, but they play enough. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, can we just get a tie?
Yes.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
Or honestly, I'm just like, can we score? We have not scored 20 points yet this season. Can we find a way to at least do that?
I mean, it's a possibility, though, because the way that we gave Carolina 36 points, it's a possibility. I'm just saying.
So here's the thing with that Carolina game. What I hope the Browns don't do is look at that film and be like, okay, we can become a pass-heavy team for this week against the Raiders, and have Deshaun Watson go out there and throw like 50-some passes.
Right.
Like, that's not his game anymore. Maybe when he was in his prime with Houston,
yeah.
But that's not he hasn't been able to do that. So keep him at like maybe 30 passing attempts, run the heck out of the ball, keep the Raiders offense on the field, because I remember what Gardner Minshew did to us last year when he was with Indianapolis, and I know Jacoby Myers is a very capable wide receiver, so I'm just like, run the heck out of the ball, keep the Raiders on the sideline, keep Wilkinson, Tyree Wilson, and some of your other key defensive players out on the field as long as possible, and there's your recipe for success. I don't want it to be, we're going to run the ball 25 times for 30 yards and we're going to pass the ball 50 sometimes. Don't do that.
Facts. So, I mean, your guy has another question down here too.
Yeah. He's asking for score predictions. Player of the game.
So if the Raiders decides to win this game, or actually wants to come and play like they supposed to be playing, score prediction, I'm gonna be honest with you, I really just feel like at the end of the day, when it comes to this Raiders game, when it comes to a score prediction, I say both teams don't make it to 20, but if they do, I say 2017 Raiders.
So
2017 Raiders, if I had to pick it. And if I wanted to make a player of the game, it's going to be Daniel Carlson kicking the game-winning field goal.
Okay. Even though the Browns are 1-2, I'm 0-3 so far, because I picked the Browns to beat the Cowboys in week 1. I picked the Jaguars to win in week 2, and then I picked the Browns in week 3. So I'm 0-3. I want to pick the Browns, but I just, given the way we played against the Giants and the way we played against the Jaguars, I'm just like, how can I be confident in that? So I'll pick the home team here. I'm going to pick the Raiders. I'll say you guys just barely scored 20 points. I'll say 21-18. I know that's a bit of a weird game. Hey, even though I'm a Browns fan, I'm not always going to pick them. If I don't think they're going to win a game, I'm not picking them. And
You're being realistic. There's nothing wrong with that.
exactly. You just looked surprised when I picked the Raiders. So
yeah, because like the way the Raiders been playing for the last 3 weeks, and we were 1-2 as well. So I thought this probably, I'm picking the Raiders because I'm just going to rock with them, win, lose, or draw. But I get why you're not picking your Browns. I totally agree. $230 million guaranteed quarterback, and you're 1-2, and you're playing terrible. I see why you would pick against your Browns. I see why.
I'm like, I will continue picking against you until you prove me wrong.
Right.
Like you lost against the Giants. You barely won against the Jaguars. Why should I have confidence that we're going to go into Vegas and beat the Raiders? So that's why I'm going with. I'm not trying to show any disrespect towards the Raiders by saying any of that. That's certainly not my intention there.
Right.
But I'm going with the Raiders here. Like I said, I'll go 21. I'll say the Raiders win by a touchdown, 21-14.
Okay.
Jacoby Myers.
I'll be surprised. I'll be surprised if we only allow 14 points. I'll definitely be surprised. But hey, this might be a bounce back game for the Raiders. I'm not going to ride them off just yet, but hey.
Yeah. We got another question for you. He said, I heard the nasty rumors that the Raiders might be tanking to get a high draft pick. I don't believe that's going to happen right now. Have you heard that rumor?
I've been hearing this rumor for years, not just this year. Let's be completely honest. This tanking for a quarterback thing has been going on since Derek Carr was there. So, like, we've been so-called trying to tank for a quarterback since Carr's 5th year or 6th year in the league. Like, this has been a long thing that at the time when Justin Fields was on the board, we're taking for Justin Fields. We was going to take for Caleb Williams. We was going to take for Jaden Daniels. We was going to take for so many quarterbacks coming out of the NFL. I heard this rumor over and over again, and I agree with you. It's not going to happen. If we do not do well this year, I don't think we tank because of it. If we don't do well this year because the coaches didn't prepare us to win games and the players didn't execute enough to win games. So I don't think, for me, I don't feel like tanking is a thing in the NFL. I don't think it is, because you have to understand, you can tank in basketball because basketball is only 5 players on the court. 5 on one side, 5 on the other. This is 11 on 11. 22 players on the field at one time. Do you really think we have enough room? Antonio Pierce has enough room to tank in his first year as a coach? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So I don't believe in taking in the NFL. I don't believe in that.
Yeah. And if anybody knows about having a laundry list of quarterbacks, it's us. I mean,
both of ours, okay? Like, when it comes, like, I'm not gonna lie, Derek Carr was the last longevity quarterback that we had. Before him, we had like 20 to 30 quarterbacks before him.
Yeah, we've had like Thad Lewis, Robert Griffin III, Jake Delhomme, Seneca Wallace, Derek Anderson, Charlie Fry. Good God, why am I saying this name? Johnny Manziel. Jason Campbell, and
we had Jason Campbell. That makes it even worse.
It does. You're right.
We had Jason Campbell.
Yes. And we've had a number of different head coaches and offensive coordinators. I'm just like, can we get some stability? Can we be like the Steelers? Can we be like the Packers, the Ravens? One of these teams, please.
So since 2002, since the Las Vegas Raiders, since the Raiders has been to the Super Bowl, we had Rich Gannon, Kerry Collins, Andrew Walter, Aaron Brooks, Josh McCown, Dante Culpepper, Jamarcus Russell, Charlie Fry, Jason Campbell.
Wait, you had Charlie Fry?
We had Charlie Fry.
I didn't realize that our two teams have had have shared 2 different quarterbacks.
Yeah, but y'all have Brew Gradkowski too, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so. So that's 3 shared quarterbacks between the Browns and Raiders. Good God.
Wait, so did y'all have Terrell Pryor as well?
I don't know if he was I don't remember if we used him as a quarterback, but I know we had him.
Right. So like it's just that's all the quarterbacks up to 2012 instead of getting then we end up getting Derek Carr.
And I remember when Derek Carr was available, as a Browns fan, I wanted him because I liked what I saw on tape of him from out of Fresno State. I'm like, okay, maybe he can come to Cleveland and actually stabilize our quarterback position. Nope, we didn't do that.
Right.
He obviously went to you guys, and I thought he had a solid career with you. I I
Right.
I, I wish he had more success with you because I saw the potential there, and you guys have had Hall of Famers on your team, like one of my all-time favorites, Charles Woodson. I remember him more so as a Packer than I do a Raider, but still, um, like you've had Charles Woodson. Marshawn Lynch played for you. I think he's going to end up in the Hall of Fame. That's just me. But those are just the first 2 names that come to mind. So maybe I'm
Right.
missing a couple.
So at the end of the day, man, I really see shout out to Poison Ivy, shout out to everybody that yeah, Josh, remember Rich Gannon? Yeah, Rich Gannon was one of our great quarterbacks that we had. So when it
Yeah.
comes to the Raider Nation, the Raider Nation is going to be an ability. I know the Brown fans are going to travel because Las Vegas is a traveling destination for anybody, no matter if the Raiders was there or not. So no matter what fans are there, they're going to travel to Las Vegas just to get that experience. And Allegiant Stadium is going to be booming. It's going to be fun, and it's going to be a very, very tough game. Darion, 2 more weeks, and we ready. My Steelers will be ready for the Raiders. I don't listen. I'm not looking forward to that game the way the Raiders been looking. I'm not even looking past the Cleveland Browns right now. Until we get past the Cleveland Browns, until we get past the Denver Broncos, then we'll be focused on the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I'm not looking that far down the road just now. I'm just not doing it.
Right. By the way, this makes me 4 for 4, so I'm already planning on hopefully hit the Commanders and Eagles next week, and then Bengals is where it's going to be a bit tricky. So if you know of any Bengals content creators, let me know, and I'll reach out to them.
Okay.
So I know you're more in the AFC West, but maybe you've worked with some Bengals content creators. I don't know.
Yeah, I have.
Okay, so let me know. Broncos is the other tricky one as of right now. So I know you're familiar with Broncos.
Oh yeah, I know a few Broncos content creators I can send your way as well.
Okay, cool. So, but in the meantime, I appreciate you coming on with me once again. Hopefully I can get on the board against you because don't worry, I haven't forgotten 2020 for that weird weather game.
Oh, that was a good game, but a terrible game.
Yes. I think the final score was like 16-6.
Yeah. I think we scored like one. I think we scored like one touchdown and everything else was field goals.
Yes, I was at that game. I suffered through that. It was not good. So we'll see if this game is any better. We're both picking the Raiders. And you got any final thoughts?
Just win, baby. Just win, baby. And if y'all do want to follow me on social media, all my social media is at NBR Pod 1, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, you name it. NBR Pod 1. Just follow me on there and we'll go from there. But so just win, baby. And hopefully my Raiders come out with a win.
Yeah. And I know you're going to be live streaming during the Georgia-Alabama game later tonight.
Yep, on D Hopkins Sports Live. So if you want to go over to that YouTube channel, go to D Hopkins Sports Live. I will be live for Alabama Georgia game. So SEC because I'm a Tennessee Vols fan. So I definitely got to take a look at that because we play both of those teams this year. So it's gonna be fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm sure you were happy with the game against Oklahoma last week. I'm not an Oklahoma fan. I'm not a Tennessee fan, but I was so excited for that game because it was Oklahoma's SEC debut.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I'm just like, that game did not live up to the hype. So, not blaming on.
It was a physical game. It was a more defensive game than anything. It wasn't high power offense. So I get why.
Yeah, not even because of that. It just felt like Oklahoma was never really in the game. It felt like Tennessee was in control
Yeah.
basically right from the start. I thought it was going to be not necessarily a high scoring game, even though I know that's something Tennessee has been doing a lot this season. But I thought it was going to be a really close game that came down to the final seconds, and it never really got to that point. So that's more so why it was disappointing and didn't live up to the hype. But again, thank you so much for coming onto the channel and helping me continue my quest. Hopefully, when the Browns and Raiders play each other again in the future, we can collaborate again.
Absolutely. I'm always there for collaboration, man.
Yeah. And if you want to subscribe and help me reach my goal of next up 700, you can just punch that subscribe button like a UFC fighter. I'm UngarToTheMax. That's always been my thing because I'm a huge UFC fan.
Mm-hmm.
That's Darion from Nothing But Raiders podcast, and this has been the Week 4 video collab, Browns at Raiders, and I will see you next week when the Browns take on the Washington Commanders.